Edge, Season 7, Episode 50. I'm Vance Bastian here with my co-host, S.A. Baz Collins.
Hello.
And we're really glad you're here with us. On today's show, Faith Mosley will discuss her debut novel with us, followed by our review of The Happiest season. Then Baz and I will share what's held our attention this week. So if you like hearing updates from queer content creators, support us on Patreon, hit our merch store. But now, on to our guest. Faith Mosley's previous works have included in the short story anthology Lez Talk, a collection of Black lesbian short fiction. She now lives in central New Mexico, where she has spent the past couple years converting a small school bus into a tiny house on wheels. Faith, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. So, before I ask how you got your start writing, I do want to ask about that tiny house. How's that going?
Yeah.
It's going really well. And I'll be honest with you. It's kind of, I mean, all the seats are taken out. I've got a little bed in there. It's really cute. It's really small. Okay. It's like a 4-window, and it's a 1995 Chevy van G30, like a school bus cutaway.
Right.
Okay. So it looks more like a van almost. And it really, for me, is more like a little womb room. Like I go in there and read or write, kind of meditate. I really don't drive it that much, but I'm starting to drive it more.
That's really awesome. All right. So where did the fire to write start? Where did you decide you're going to become a storyteller?
I would say that started very early in life. Well, my even as little kids, my mom used to come in. My brother and I shared a bedroom. My mom would sit on the floor between our beds, and we would all tell stories. She would start. My brother would add to it. I'd add to it, and we just go in a round until it came to the end. And from there, as my brother and I got older, we continued to write stories. We wrote stories together up through college. And so that's always been like a major part of my life, just kind of as a way to make sense of the world.
Very nice. And so you wrote short fiction for a while, but now you've got a book out, Sky Court. Tell me about
Right.
it.
Yeah. That's, I always wanted to write a book that I would have wanted when I was in high school. And so I guess, when I was in high school, which was in the 80s, I never had a book that had any gay teens in it. And I just always kind of dreamed of finding that book. So I was writing a book kind of for myself,
Right. Well,
Those are the best books often. All right.
Yep.
So let's see. Casey Black is the main character.
Right.
17-year-old.
So there's Casey, and then it's sort of an ensemble crew. There's Rowena, there's Trevor, there's Steve. So there's a group of teenagers. They all live at the Sky Court complex, this apartment complex. And they're all just kind of struggling through life. They all have different home situations. And of course, there is a mystery because I love mysteries. And so I had to insert it into this kind of growing up story because Casey's confronted with kind of a new living situation where she's living with her grandfather who's 83, and she used to live with her dad in a bigger city. Now she's in a small town. She's falling in love with a girl in her school, and there's this mystery happening. And at the same time, there's Trevor and Steve, who are two high school basketball stars, and they're having a romance. And all these kids are, they're trying to figure life out, as you do in high school.
Right.
So the girl that Casey likes, is that Rowena or is that Patricia?
Yes, that's Rowena. Yes. Now, Patricia is a missing child. That's actually part of the mystery. And Casey works as an amateur sleuth to figure out what's happened. Where is she? What's going on?
Nice. All right, so I will not ask spoilers about the plot, though I'm curious. But some things that just in reading the synopsis of the book, it sounds like Casey's already out and knows who she is, and coming out's not part of her story, right?
Right. Yeah. Coming out is not really part of her story. She's clear who she is, and she's okay with that. It's not a struggle for her.
Nice.
She is trying to, she kind of looks at the adults in her life to kind of see how is she going to be when she gets older? Which is something, as a young person, I definitely did. I would look at adults trying to kind of see, well, how am I going to be? I didn't see a lot of older lesbians who were working. Like, I didn't see them daily. I didn't, I felt like I didn't really have those role models. I know this will really date me, but I did see some gay and lesbian people on a Phil Donahue episode once. And I was just so sucked in because I was like, oh my God, here's some gay adult people. Let me look at their clothes, their hair, it was fascinating.
Girl, I grew up in the same period, so same.
Yeah, you just didn't.
I was looking at lesbians trying to figure my shit out.
Yeah, so and she's even looking at her boss at work, the character thinking, okay, how did he go from this kid to this man? How does he get this gray hair? How do these lines, like, how is life happening? And how am I going to fit into this? So that's also part of her struggle, to figuring out, how am I going to be as I become an adult person?
Right.
Of course, the hidden gem in all of that is we get to be adults and we're like, shit, we're still figuring shit out.
Right.
Nobody has a secret, like, I know everything button.
Exactly. Right. And if you don't see people who you kind of identify with, you just figure, I got to do it from scratch. I'm going to have to just imagine myself and just do it how I want to do it and be me.
Yep. Coming at it from the other gender, I mean, I also was a child of the 80s, and all I saw was like John Ritter's character in Three's Company, which was kind of a joke character. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
And then there was Uncle Arthur in Bewitched, but again, I was like, he is authentically himself, but it's not who I'm going to be either. So I get it. I completely understand.
Totally. Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
And those we did get were often tragic stories.
Right.
Right. No one seems solid or together, or this was going to be a happy ending. It was going to be dark.
Yep. Well, it sounds like Casey's story is a little happier than that.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
So is it kind of like the crew there it's kind of found family, that they kind of hang together because the solidarity in numbers, or like friends?
Initially, no, because Trevor and Steve are having a secret relationship. So they don't want to align themselves with Casey, who is pretty obvious. And I don't want to say too much about near the end of the story, but we'll say that their dynamic as a crew completely changes by the end of the story.
Got it.
Okay. So it's more a journey of them finding togetherness.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else you would like folks to know about the book?
Well, I would just say that, my target audience really was young adults. But I think anyone of any age would probably enjoy it, because it seems like a lot of adults are reading it and they seem to be enjoying it. So you don't have to be.
Well, I think it's like, to your point, that, we didn't grow up. So it's kind of like we play catch up. You know what I mean? We read the books we didn't have to fill that part of us that was missing.
Right.
Exactly. All right. I'm going to let Baz ask you our get to know you questions.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So in getting to know thyself, what is your least favorite word?
Wow. I'm going to say, and this is going to sound weird, but I'm going to say right, RIGHT. And that's just my least favorite word of the moment, because I feel like for whatever reason, suddenly everyone is saying right. They make a statement, they say right. And I feel like it's sort of as if I'm agreeing with them, and I'm just kind of parked over here in neutral. I haven't agreed yet, but that just seems to be a common thing people are doing now. So I would say right is my least favorite word of the moment.
Okay. Got it. Well, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word is actually a phrase, and it's "good Lord." And I started saying "good Lord." I feel like after I turned 50, I was saying it all the time.
And for emphasis, you put that little T on the end. Good Lord.
Yeah. Right.
I get it. Okay. Well, what turns you off?
I would say crowds.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, they have a mind of their own, and sometimes it's not helpful. All right. Well, what turns you on?
Empty places in nature. So like an empty beach, an empty trail where it's just kind of me or maybe me and a friend. It's just super quiet.
Yeah. That can be really cool.
Yeah.
All right. What sound or noise do you hate?
Are the voices of arguing people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I get it. Then there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
All right. What sound or noise do you love?
I love the sound of streams, waves, any kind of moving water. I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Calming, can kind of put you to sleep.
And yet you live in central New Mexico.
Rain.
That's probably why I love it more.
Right?
I lived in the Bay
we got a trickle outside.
I lived in the Bay Area for about 12 years, and
cool.
I was always going to the ocean. I mean, I was there probably 3 days out of the week, and so I love the ocean waves. In the Midwest, I lived by rivers, and so moving water I love, and I do miss it. Being in New Mexico, I'm not surrounded by water,
right.
So when I come by a stream, oh my God.
Nice.
I just soak in.
She's gonna have to buy herself one of those self-contained fountains that just like circulates the water. Exactly. There's something for your little house.
Exactly.
Solved. Okay. Well, what's your favorite curse word?
Can I say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Bullshit.
I love the way you
and
say
again,
it, by
for emphasis, it's bullshit. You don't really say the L's. It's bullshit. I get it. Okay. Well, what profession would you not like to do?
I would not want to be a college professor.
Too
much bullshit.
Especially in this climate. Yeah, especially in this climate. No, seriously. All right. Well, what profession other than your own do you dream of attempting?
I would like to be, you remember Northern Exposure? You remember Maggie with the
one of my favorite shows.
In the little airplane to the isolated locations. I would love to do that. You just up there.
That sounds cool.
And dropping off the mail, that seems like it'd be super fun.
I always wondered if she got really cranky with people. She didn't even bother landing. She just pushed it out. Because Maggie was known to have her cranky modes.
I love that. I love that.
All right. So, final question. If you believe in an afterlife, what would you like to have waiting for you?
I would love for spirit guides to show me kind of like they would sit me down in a room and they would have a videotape and show me what could have happened. Like, for example, I used to go hiking up in the Oakland Hills all the time when I had a dog. And it was one morning, she just would not go up this one path that we always take. It was pretty early. It was awful. And I thought, so we took a different path, and I thought, I wonder what was up there. Like, why wouldn't she go? And so I thought, well, you know what? When I die, I'm hoping the spirit guides would sit me down and say, remember that day your dog wouldn't go up the path? And then they have a video of what was there.
Right.
Like maybe a mountain lion or some space aliens, like who knows? But I get to see these things now.
I love that.
Right. Yeah, I do too. That's really excellent. Love that. All right, well, you made it through the list. Woo-hoo!
So what's up next for you? I am, I'm working on another young adult novel, and this has another young Black butch lesbian protagonist who is dealing with a domestic violence household and what she has to do to survive.
Wow, that sounds powerful.
Important topic.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
All right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, is there a way fans can reach out and follow what you're doing?
I will just say that I'm working on a web page. I don't have an author page yet. That's coming. That's coming soon.
Excellent. All right. Any final words of wisdom?
Just thanks a lot for inviting me on your show. I really appreciate it. It was nice to meet you guys.
It's great meeting you too.
No, it's not a one-time deal. You get that other book comes out, you come back and tell us about it.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And we'll help tell the world about it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. We'd like to extend a huge thank you to Faith Mosley for being with us. Faith, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And we at Written on the Edge are proud to introduce you to new media by queer content creators. So if you enjoy learning about these artists, please like and subscribe so you get the alerts for new episodes. Now, on to our review.
Hey everybody! So that was a great interview, Vance. I really liked the discussion we had there. Right now, we are moving on to our review, and this review is about the movie called Happiest Season. And this is one that Vance and I had contemplated doing last winter when it first broke, but for one reason or another, we never got the review out. So we have asked Marvin to join us and have a little discussion about what we thought about it.
And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, Marvin is MD New. He is an author, an amazing storyteller. He actually has a Christmas book out with lesbians as the central characters. You need to check that out. But his insight into holiday movies was something we were seriously hoping to tap into this season, and he said yes.
For good or for bad?
Oh, it's all been good. All good.
Oh, that's good.
Right. Well, it brings up, there we go. Okay. A happy romantic comedy that captures the range of emotions tied to wanting your family's acceptance, being true to yourself, and trying not to ruin Christmas by revealing a nasty secret. What could that be?
So, when we talked about this last week, Mr. MD New, you said you had feelings. What are they? I want to hear this.
I do. Okay, so this one was very difficult for me because the actors who are in it are all phenomenal. I mean, they're all great. But the story, this was like something out of the 1980s, 1990s. It's like, oh, the drama of being gay or lesbian. Oh, my family. Who cares? I know that's terrible, and I know people still go through it. I get it, but I was just like, really, Dan Levy, really, you decided that this was good. So I was very frustrated because I wanted to love it.
His character's wisdom, though, is what elevated it to a modern movie.
Yes, and if it wasn't for his character and the actors, like I said, the cast was amazing. I mean, the cast was phenomenal. But if it wasn't for him and the bits that he would throw in there, I was ready to like throw things at the screen because I was so frustrated. And I get the importance of the message and I understand that, but I was just so frustrated. I was like, come on, whereas the last movie that we reviewed, the gay characters and them being lesbians was a total non-issue. This one was the complete opposite. It was the issue of the story, and it was just like I was just not a happy camper. Sorry.
Well, here's my take on it. I wonder if there are a number of queer content creators that are now having the green lights on these projects, and we're kind of playing catch up to the stories we should have had in the 80s and 90s, but never did have. Sidebar, Vance, we lost you.
Yay, at least it wasn't a problem with me.
Should we fall back over to Zoom? Okay, let's bounce over to Zoom and let's redo this.
That's fine with me.
No, it's okay. We're going to bounce out then, right? Yeah, okay. Let's see if that works. This is all new to us.
Yeah, it's you would think that we weren't living in the technology future, right?
So what I'm thinking is, Clea Duvall, who wrote the story, who also directed it, I don't know much about them as a creator, but I have a sneaking suspicion they're of at least a certain age, that maybe this was a story that they would have wanted and maybe never had, and they thought, well, if I feel this way, so I'm kind of wondering if that's really, what's at play here. I don't, and I think that, it's kind of like, we have Planes, Trains, and Automobiles for a Thanksgiving movie. We have a Christmas Story for the Christmas movie. You have all these stories that kind of tell moments in time in our social structure and stuff. And I just wonder if a movie like this is kind of trying to fill that niche, although we may think that maybe that niche no longer needs to be filled. What do you guys think?
I say then do the movie in the 90s. Set it in the appropriate time period. I mean, I think if they would have set it in like 1991, 1992, 93, 94, somewhere around in there, I think that would have put the story in an appropriate time, especially when you're dealing with a politician whose child is going to come out. Spoilers for the movie, but that's kind of the big focus of the story.
That's the big secret.
Yeah, that's the big secret.
It comes out pretty early.
So I think if they would have set it in that time period, I would have been a lot more forgiving of the story, because then I would have looked at it from a historical lens and said, okay, hey, they're showing this movie as it for what would have been a big issue at that time, where now it's not so much.
Fair enough.
Speaking as the Midwesterner of this group, I think this story is probably a little more realistic here than it is on the West Coast.
Also fair enough.
I still know people, younger people, admittedly, not us older guys who are like, fuck it, whatever. But I still know younger people who are like, can I tell my parents? I have very religious parents in Ohio. I came to Madison to go to a great big university where I could be myself. Now I'm myself. Do I tell them? It's not as common as it would have been in the 90s, but it still happens here.
True.
Because there's still a very core. There's a concept in the Midwest where you can't be different or better than the people in your circle, and I see that playing out here. It's the don't rise above us. That the sibling dynamics in this movie really elucidated that. Don't be better than your siblings. You are in the order you're in. Don't rock the boat. That's a really Midwestern pile of bullshit, but it is common.
Fair enough. Yeah. That's a great point to consider, that it's not. And I think that's something that I think as the community, we tend to jump to things quickly and not really considering that aspect that you bring up, Vance, which is very valid. And I think that, maybe that's definitely what Clea Duvall was aiming towards, was trying to address that kind of environment rather than, and it wasn't necessary, because I don't think they ever said what town it was in, did they?
Ohio. They
But
said
it was
Ohio.
okay. It was Ohio, but they didn't say like what city or specifically. No. Okay, so I can kind of get what you're saying, and I think that even though it wasn't like they weren't out in the rural sticks, but it still had that feeling of, like you say, the family dynamic is still set, and this is the way the culture is generally within that area of the country.
Now, having said that, my problem with the movie wasn't actually that. My problem with the movie is I wanted Kristen Stewart's character to realize she was in a very abusive relationship and go date Riley instead.
Yeah.
Riley was a much better person to her in all ways.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was kind of rooting for them as well.
Me too. The first time I saw it last year, I was like, "Oh, that's where this should go," and it didn't.
Yeah. And I think, again, it's kind of what we go through as queer people in our youth. We don't necessarily make the call that's the most obvious one standing in front of us. Sometimes we have the unrequited love of a friend who eventually we might see down the road and go, oh, wait, and that's part of the growing up process. You kind of just go, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. Duh. But, and I think that's part of what's in play here. I think, that they may have made the wrong choice, or not the best choice, but that's part of the learning curve of you finding and establishing your queerdom. But I agree with you. It wasn't, it was not the best choice. So should we get to our numbers?
Yeah.
Okay, Marvin, you go.
Oh, my numbers. Okay, let me pull that up really quick. Okay, so all right, so my numbers are going to kind of reflect a lot of my feelings about the ups and downs for this. Overall production, I gave a 3. Screenwriters, I'm nailing them for this, and it's going to be a 2. Sound, lighting, and score. Now, I really liked the look and feel of it, so I'm giving that a 4. And despite some of the issues with, it clearly not being filmed in the winter, they did a really good job with the art direction and costumes to make it feel like the winter. So I'm giving that a 4.5. Casting, like I said, I really loved the casting, but I'm nailing them a little bit because I think that Dan should have spoken up a little bit more, and kind of been like, hey guys, WTF, right? So I'm giving that a 3. The directing, I'm coming at the director again because I just was not overly happy with some of the choices they made. That's a 2. But the queer theme, it was front and center and right there for the world to see. So that got a good solid 5 for me. So I think that puts my rating somewhere around 3.5.
Okay, fair enough.
I will say I did actually like Kristen. I thought she did surprisingly, she did a good job. She really did.
All right, Vance, give us your numbers.
Mine were pretty even keeled across the board. It was a good movie. I think people should see it. I think, to Marvin's point specific, people should see it as slightly more historic than currently accurate. But relationships are relationships, and they're all weird, and they all come with families and intertwined
Life is
ties.
a mess.
Life is a mess. So, all of my numbers were 4. So production quality 4. I thought it was really well done. Script screenplay was a 3. That's the one where I was like, oh, okay, but this relationship isn't healthy. Some of the views in it aren't healthy. I'm just not buying I didn't buy the relationship. I think that's why I gave it a 3. It was okay. I didn't buy it. Sound, lighting, score, I was back up to a 4 though. I thought that worked beautifully. Art direction and costuming, same thing. It was on par for what it needed to be. Casting 4, directing 3.5, because I think the director could have done something about the script and didn't.
Considering they were both the same person.
I know. Queer themes presented, back up to a 4 though. Like you guys, it covered the gamut of some of the relationship ways and woes, but also Dan's character's insight into making your relationship yours and not following the cookie cutter pattern was something I think a lot of people need to hear. And that goes above and beyond gay, straight, that all relationships, you need to understand it's yours. Make it yours.
Yeah,
Do not follow
absolutely.
this
Agreed.
traditional, like 1,000-year-old pattern that was created before there was even a gas engine. So anyway, my personal overall of 4.
Okay. Mine are 3.5 for the overall screenplay. I'm going to agree with you guys. I'm going to give it a 2. I thought it could have been. It's almost like they had a script that seemed decent, so let's run with it, rather than thinking through some of the problematic areas of the story. Sunlighting score, I'm going to give it a 3. It was adequate. It was what it needed to be. Art direction, I'm going to give that a 4 because it did give me that Midwest kind of feel, and so all of the location shots and it all played very well. So I was fine with the art direction and costuming. Cast 5. It was a very capable cast. I can't ding them for what wasn't on the page or in the direction. Directing, I will knock it back down to a 3. That this director, if they wrote the screenplay, actually they co-wrote it with somebody else, but that other writer should have said, "Hey, wait a minute, let's talk about this for a sec." So there should have been a conversation in the writer's room. And queer themes presented, I'm going to only give that a 3 because of the historical question we've been throwing back and forth. I think they could have played it better. To your point, Vance, with Dan Levy's character, yeah, I agree that was a really great thing to present, and it was probably one of the highlights of the whole movie. But at the same time, it's like because of what we were talking about with the historical thing, did it advance anything? Not really. So, I mean, other than that one part. And somebody could get up and go to the bathroom and never have seen that moment. So, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
So my overall is a 3.5. So there we have it.
All right, folks.
All right.
Go follow MD New on all the socials. He's super active. It's great. He's been a cheerleader of this show for a very long time. Please follow him. Buy one of his books. Give it a rating. Give it a review. Show him.
Pick up his Lesbian Christmas story.
Please do.
Yeah, I think it's modern and contemporary. So much better than this other one.
There you go. There you go.
Awesome.
I'm not biased at all.
Not at all. And you know what? Kudos to you for promoting your own work.
Yeah. Because often as authors, we forget to do that.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Like, what is this promotion you speak of?
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
All right.
Let's go hit what won the week for Baz and I, but tune in next week for our next review with MD.
Well, that was fun with Marvin.
It was. I'm glad he agreed to do this.
Sorry, Kirsten. We really did like the cast. Anyways. Let's talk about, we don't really have a lot of what we're on about this week because it's the holidays, people. Shit's going crazy. I took my mom to Home Depot yesterday. Actually, I took her the day before on Saturday because we're recording this on Monday. Took her on Saturday and it was a madhouse. I mean, it was so bad. People couldn't even figure out which way they were turning in the parking lot to find a parking space. And this was at Home Depot.
Wow.
What? Yeah, exactly. It was like, oh my God, get me out of here. So we left, had a wonderful drive. That was about all we had that day. So I said, let's go back and we'll go early in the morning when everybody's at church on Sunday and maybe we'll beat the crowd. Well, it worked, except that when we got out of the car and went inside, it was like not very, rainy or anything, but it was overcast. And I thought, okay, and it was a little cold. I thought, okay. So we went inside, did whatever. By the time we came out, it was like God was dumping the bathwater. I'm like, Mom, you stay here. Let me run and get the car, and I'll bring it up here so you can get in. It was, yeah. So for one reason, it's just crazy right now. So just forgive us for not having What Are We On About? Because What Are We On About is family and holiday crap. So there you go. I'm sure Vance is experiencing somewhat of the same.
Yes, only we actually had real snow and ice and slush fall from the sky in buckets.
I'd like to say that I wish we had some of that, but I really don't.
No, nobody wants
I can
this
watch
crap.
it in movies. That's enough for me.
Yeah,
All right.
my general comment is anybody who actually likes snow and thinks it's pretty doesn't have to deal with it.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I hear you. All right. So who won your week?
The House of Representatives for passing the Respect for Marriage Act. Again, it's not a perfect bill by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a step in the right direction, and it's something.
And can we say that one Republican senator who did her cry speech about how it was going to be the ruination of civilization, only to have her gay nephew come out and landblast her for being so homophobic and stupid? And so, he gets my honorable mention of who won the week.
Nice.
Because that boy came out swinging for his aunt saying, yeah, don't pull this bullshit. So... All right. So my who won the week is actually a revisit of a YouTuber that I've mentioned on the show before. His name is Alex, and he runs, actually it's Alexander Petrov is his name. He runs a YouTube channel called My English World. He's self-taught himself how to speak English, and he used to have live streams and live chats on YouTube with his subscribers who would chat with him and stuff. And so he was trying to immerse himself in English speaking. So he was using his conversations with his subscribers as a way of staying involved with trying to master English as a language. So I really kind of took to watching him. I get a real queer vibe from him, but having been in Russia, I get that he's not able to talk about those things. But his channel is at My English World. I'm going to put it down below or here up somewhere so people can see it. Definitely go check it out. He just recently released his first live stream in almost 2.5, 3 months.
Wow.
And that's because he had the opportunity via his subscribers to get the hell out of Russia. And we really didn't hear from him for a while. All of his semi-daily, it was like maybe every other day he would do a live stream. They stopped, just universally stopped. And people kind of went into a panic mode because it was right around the time mobilization occurred. Nobody knew what had happened. Well, basically he was making his escape. And his subscribers put together the funds and the resources to get him out of Russia. He had to go from Vladivostok, which is on the eastern side of the country, and he had to fly all the way over via a pit stop somewhere in the middle of the country to Moscow. Then he flew to Tashkent in Uzbekistan, where he met up with Konstantin, who has another Russian channel that I follow. They had a brief discussion, so people kind of knew, oh, he made it out of the country. So at least we knew that. And then he disappeared again, and nobody knew what happened. And eventually Konstantin posted in his community page that Alex was making his way to the United States and that he was now being held in a detention center in El Paso, Texas. And so we didn't know what was going on. He said, I can't speak more on it because he is seeking political asylum. And so the process is ongoing. He has a family that is sponsoring him in the United States. So, he's got a decent or good immigration attorney. So that was all we kind of knew. We didn't really, and he said when Alex can broadcast, he will tell everybody what his journey was like. So he just posted it last night. I highly recommend people go up and take a listen to it and watch what he discusses. He's a really great guy, very, very generous, very humble. He is so happy to be in the United States. But one of the first things he did is he brought up the LGBTQ community, which I found very enlightening to hear him speak of it. There was nobody was bringing it up. He was talking about how his country was very homophobic and blah, blah. And he also is a man who doesn't have really a lot of family because he was an orphan. And so his life was very, very humble and modest. And he pretty much did everything on his own as best he could. And so it's just really nice to see that he's living in Houston right now with his host family. He is only surviving on donations from his Patreon users and from his subscribers. But he is a very generous human being. He has a kind spirit. He desperately wanted to get out of Russia once the mobilization came about. He wanted to get out beforehand, but he didn't have the monetary means. And so when the opportunity sprung, it was literally, he had 5 minutes from the moment that they said they had the money to get him plane tickets and to get him going. He had 5 minutes to pack his clothes, to throw his laptop, his microphone, his phone, his chargers in a kind of backpack kind of thing. And there was a car there waiting for him to pick him up and take him to the airport in Vladivostok. So he left everything behind, his apartment, all the rest of his clothes he couldn't pack, everything, So he literally was escaping. And it was a very harrowing experience because he said at any time, what people don't get, at any time, he could have been grabbed and mobilized. And so he said it literally felt like he was a spy trying to get out of a hostile country. And he said that the poor guy, he goes, I didn't have a place to change or he goes, and I was sweating all the time because I was so stressed out. And so, you go through all of that stuff, but, to see the relief on his face and the absolute joy of having a dream of his come true, that he always wanted to live in America. He really liked American culture. And to him, he's saying this is the best Christmas present in his entire life, that he is able to now say he's in America and to be able to discuss and talk about things that he was not comfortable talking about when he was in Russia. So kudos to the family who sponsored him, because this was someone who literally did everything he could to hide from military service. He ended up leaving Russia before and living in South Korea for a time just to hide out from the authorities. So it's been a long, arduous journey for him. And he said it was the most scary, most horrifying thing he's ever gone through. But the outcome of him being in the United States now means the world to him. So, this is one of the things where I really push back on the whole Republican bullshit line that immigrants are a problem. When immigrants get here, they are so thankful for being here. These are not people who are going to be lawbreakers. These are not people who are going to buck the system. They are going to do everything in their power to stay in the good graces of this country because they fought so hard to get here. And I think that's a message that often gets lost, or it's assumed and nobody wants to bring it up. But that's really the counter, and why Alex won the week for me, because he reinforces that opinion that, when Republicans and them, demonize immigrants, they're demonizing mostly immigrants who don't look like Alex because he's a white man. But, at the same time, he acknowledges that his story, while harrowing, is not every immigrant story, and he knows that the 2 months he spent in detention is not what some other people experience. They could be there longer, and he knew that, and he makes commentary on that. So I highly recommend people go listen to his story. I will put the direct link below for the video that he just released yesterday, Sunday. We're recording this on Monday, so I'll put the link up for that. It's about an hour and a half, but he does talk about what he went through, and it was a pretty amazing journey. And he says he's going to write a book about the whole process and what he's gone through. So good luck. So that's who won my week.
Well, and on that emotional note, we want to wish everybody a very happy season and wonderful holidays. as you move forward. Family, friends, but remember those in need as well. Written on the Edge is produced by Rogue Ravens Media. For our disclaimers, links to social media, our listen stations, or to sign up as a guest, visit www.rotepodcast.com. If you enjoy learning about new artists, please like and subscribe so you get the alerts for new episodes. Go to YouTube, like, subscribe there, please. We're really making that big over there. Buy some merchandise, support us on Patreon, do what you can to help us keep bringing you the stories of these new artists. That's it for this week. Tune in next week for your Queer Media Fix.
Bye-bye.
What's that? Closing time. Bum's Rush and Melody, dear.